Good morning, everyone. Morning. I know it's early Sunday, at least it's 10 o'clock, but it's very nice and good to see you, most of you back. And this is our last part of our mental health symposium, but we are all very happy to be here together, and I'm sure that today Dr. Beatrice Castrati and Anna Thompson will have a very, very nice message, interesting things for us to learn, and then not just to learn, but as well to put in practice in our lives. We can always come back next week and say how easy it is to put this in practice, how hard it is. So before we start with Beatrice, because I want to give her the time, should we bow our heads and start with a prayer? Dear Jesus, thank you for once more for a beautiful day and for our health and for the opportunity to be here. We ask you now to bless you, the speakers this morning, that they can be blessed by you and bring a message that can help us to be healthier and as well near to you. We ask you this in your name. Amen. Beatrice, it's all yours.
Good morning. And thank you so much for coming, because I know it is a bit of a sacrifice looking at the beautiful sunshine outside and spending it in a dark room inside. so I feel honored that you're here. So thank you very much for coming. We're talking today, we're continuing on the positive note. Yesterday we talked about optimism. Optimism, of course, takes practice. Optimism is good for us, optimism in the face and because of adversity. So today we're going to continue on that note, because optimism helps and creates resilience. So what is resilience? Today we're going to talk about emotional resilience. This is a mental health symposium, so we're going to talk about a little bit our insides. Okay, I want to talk to you today about resilience and the three parts of emotional resilience, because everything has three parts. All good things have three. So of course, emotional resilience is built on three pillars. Life doesn't come with a map. And everyone experiences twists and turns along the life's journey. And of course, there are everyday challenges, but there can also be traumatic events with a more lasting impact, like, for example, death of a loved one, an accident, illness, disability. So each change in life that is not planned affects people differently. And of course, that brings about a flood of thoughts and worries and strong emotions and, of course, uncertainty and vulnerability. But people, of course, over time adapt gradually to life-changing situations. The saying goes, time heals all wounds, but it is not all time, but it's also due to resilience, of course. So I want to help you understand what resilience is. So first, before we go and talk about what resilience is, we have to check what resilience is not. Resilience doesn't mean that somebody who is resilient doesn't feel sadness or loss or trauma or distress. Everybody shares the same emotions. We're all human. This is what it's like. And of course, resilience is not a personality trait. You can't just say, oh, you are more resilient than you. No, everybody has the same potential for resilience, and resilience can be learned. So what is resilience then? Well, resilience, according to the dictionary, is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, because of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. And, very important, it involves behaviors and thoughts, see, not just inside, but on the outside as well, behaviors and thoughts and actions that everybody can learn and develop. So if you feel you don't have much resilience, or if something would happen, a tragedy would happen to me, I am not sure if I would ever be able to endure it. Well, you can train yourself now for what may or may not happen later. Resilience is something that you can practice. So a family or relationship problem, health problems, workplace or financial stressors, mortgages, financial crises, we know we're all confronted with changes in our lives that are out of our control. So we can prepare ourselves for that. So resilience really means, by definition, bouncing back. And of course, bouncing back is a chance. It's not just a threat, but it's also a chance for personal growth. It involves bouncing back, of course, from difficult experiences. But, of course, bouncing back doesn't mean everything goes back to normal. We've heard the word or the phrase, let's go back to normal, a few times now, and everybody wants to go back to normal. But back to normal, of course, does not exist. Things changes, events in our life changes. So resilience means not going back to how things were before, but resilience means integrating whatever has happened in our lives, our responses and our emotional responses to it into our lives, and then growing with it. So let's continue a little bit about and talk about the 3 pillars, because why do I say resilience is built on 3 pillars? Well, 3 pillars are important because we are human and we have a body, we have a mind, and of course we have a creator. So I have defined resilience with physical health, of course, and physical health is brought about by exercise and nutrition. Isabel is our exercise person, so we might even do some exercise later. And of course later on with Anna we're going to talk a bit about nutrition and how nutrition can influence our mental health as well, which is a very important subject. People don't think so because we think our physical health is very much physical, but everything is connected. And if we're physically healthy, and when I say physically healthy, I don't mean completely fit, slim, but physically healthy, comfortable in our bodies, then we also have a good influence on our mental health. Then, of course, mental health. And mental health means self-awareness and mindfulness. We're going to talk about this just in a bit. And, of course, very, very important, and I know mental health is a big subject right now everywhere in the UK, but also globally. But for me, there is no mental health without spiritual health. We need a relationship with God. There cannot be, in my book, emotional resilience without a healthy relationship with God, who has given us peace of mind, who has claimed to give us peace of mind all the time. We read in the letter to the Philippians, to the Romans, we read with Jesus. Everything points to God to give us peace of mind. So emotional resilience, mental health can't exist without spiritual health. So let's talk very briefly about physical resilience. And of course, how can we bring about physical resilience? By going to the gym, of course, 4 hours a day. No, it's not necessary, but of course, aerobic exercise, taking a walk, catching air, breathing is, of course, very good for us. It boosts the natural feel-good hormones, and it uses up the stress hormones. Yes, if we get active and if we get a little bit exhausted, that actually helps us to use up all the excess stress hormones that are cruising around in our body. And of course, what are stress hormones? That's cortisol, that's adrenaline, and especially people who are suffering from chronic stress, they have a bit too much of that, and they don't know how to get rid of it. So aerobic exercise actually helps us to burn those up and to exhaust that, and to have a healthy balance, a healthy hormonal balance again in our bodies. Then, of course, we need to talk about our brain, because, yes, physical exercise has a very positive impact on our brain cells. Well, we would think, well, chess is my favorite sport, or fishing when I just need to sit next to the river and look at the water going past. No, that's not a sport. So in order to protect our brain cells, we actually have to get moving. And of course, we all know this, exercise improves our heart health, and yes, it does fight depression. And for the same reason, it burns up all the negative stress hormones that are important for us for the fight or flight response, but on a chronic basis, when we're under chronic stress, it is important to burn those up. And of course, we had a little bit of a question yesterday, what about the connection between prevention of dementia and resilience and exercise? And of course, yes, there are studies, plenty of studies now, that have proven that 150 minutes of exercise per week prevent dementia, or the early onset of dementia. So there are a few studies out there that have shown this, and I would like to show the slide, but it's not up. There we go. So, of course, physical activity and prevents neurodegenerative disease, and of course, physical activity protects our brain. And here I have highlighted it, which of course none of you can read from this distance, so I'm going to read it for you. Recent research has shown that physical activity and physical exercise benefits the cognition and brain plasticity across our lifespan. So what does brain plasticity mean? It means that we can influence how our brain is built. You probably heard long ago the old theory, once a brain cell is dead, it's dead. And our brain can't develop anymore once we're adults, and that is wrong. We can influence our brain growth, we can make new connections, we can reshape our brain. And interestingly enough, reshaping our brain, of course, takes a lot of psychological work, but it also takes physical work. So 150 minutes of exercise helps us build new connections in our brain and improve our brain health. So 150 minutes is not that much. So again, if anybody is kind of scared of, oh, I don't have the time to go for an hour walk every day, well, you have time for what you make time for, but 150 minutes a week is okay. So, use your time wisely and invest it in something that will benefit you later on. Of course, we do have some biblical evidence for this as well. Sorry, that's the wrong. The wicked flee, though no one pursues. That's mine about jogging, because I'm not a jogger. I like exercise, but jogging is not my thing. There we go. For physical training is of some value, Paul writes to Timothy, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. So yes, Paul did exercise, as we can see. So here we have the evidence. I don't know if you know the joke, basically, laughing and laughter, of course, improves health just as much as exercise does. So that's a good thing, because now I can sit in the park and laugh at the joggers. So now let's talk just very briefly about a healthy diet. Of course, Anna is going to give us the nitty-gritty of the healthy diet, which is very good, and I'm really looking forward to your presentation later. It does improve gut health. And yes, gut health is a new research subject, and it turns out it's very, very important, because our gut, going with our gut feeling, is actually not a myth. It's actually true. If we feed our gut bacteria well, they will treat us well, and they will in turn improve our mental health. And of course, a plant-based diet improves our immunity. Obviously, we need all the vitamins and the minerals that we can get, and improves our heart health. Yes, of course, we know cholesterol, etc. We do need to lower the bad cholesterol, improve the good one, and improve our heart health through a healthy diet. And of course, a healthy diet, again through gut health, fights depression. So what is a healthy or plant-based diet? Of course, it's vegetables, fruits, nuts, whole grains, and fish. Yes, fish in certain amounts is healthy, and with that, it improves all of our mental health and our physical health. Now, I don't know how many vegetables you can just name on the spot, but I'm telling you, in order to have perfect gut health, researchers came up with not a random number, but a very interesting number. You need to have 30 different kinds of vegetables a week. Now, can you name 30 different kinds of vegetables just off the hand? Well, usually if you ask for a vegetable in the UK, you get peas, but we need to have a little bit more than peas or beans. So think about 30 different kinds of vegetables and try to include them in your diet every week. Again, you don't have to have every day only vegetables. Everything in measure, in good measure, but in the whole week, 150 minutes of exercise and 30 different kinds of vegetables are good for you. And yes, again, we have the medical evidence. Finally, researchers have proven and have supported what we have said a long time ago. Plant-based diet is important. So what we have been practicing for over a century, a vegetarian and plant-based diet, is actually important. So yes, research has proven that healthcare professionals need to demand a plant-based food system. It is written right there in the study for all to see. It is healthy and it is indeed needed. So not just for us, but also for the environment. So please feel free to research more about plant-based diet. It is literally good for everyone and the entire planet. Well, if we talk about physical health, we need to talk about rest and sleep. Yes, I know in the past few days I didn't get much sleep because anytime I take our daughter to a longer trip, she sleeps in the car for hours and hours, and I know that's the night gone, So, of course, we cannot rely on having sleep or enough sleep every day. And the worst you can do is counting the hours at night, looking at the clock, and going, oh no, I only have 4 hours left until I have to get up. That will not help you sleep, trust me. Actually, that's why we have the stress hormones. In measure, they're actually a good thing, because if you haven't slept enough, the next day your body will help you get through the day somehow. Of course, you shouldn't be sleep deprived for a longer period of time. But of course, what does rest and sleep do? It contributes to detoxification and repair of the body, because at night or when you're sleeping, your body is anything but lazy, but the body is actually working very hard. It clears your body out from everything, and while you're dreaming, you're also clearing out some mental rubbish that has accumulated in all of your little brain windings. So it is important to actually get sleep for the body and for the mind. It again improves heart health. People who get enough sleep have a healthier cardiovascular system. And yes, of course, sleep improves memory and it protects the brain cells. So all the students among us, pulling an all-nighter before an exam is the wrong thing to do. Yes, I know, it is difficult to say to a young person that wants to live in the moment, but start studying a good 6 weeks before the exam and get enough sleep the night before, and then you will do well. Not if you just try to remember the entire book in one night. That's not going to work. And yes, I can attest to that. I did get through med school, and I had to learn it the hard way. So of course, again, we have the medical evidence. Sleep is essential to health. We have here a very good statement, and I need to bring my glasses. Yeah, it says it includes several sleep-related objectives with the goal to improve health, productivity, well-being, quality of life, and safety by helping people get enough sleep. So it's a very good study that has been conducted, and it proves sleep is actually important and good for our health. Now, I've talked about all of this. Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice. And what are examples of healthy habits? Yes, I can tell you what to do, and I can make you feel bad, because usually the health message is supposed to make you feel bad, because like, oh no, I need to do my to-do list. How many vegetables have I had today? Oh, not enough. I need to eat one more. So let me make you feel a little bit worse and introduce you some healthy habits. The early bird catches the worm. So proactive people are, of course, morning persons. Yes, I know. I'm kind of a mid-morning person, I'd say, but a morning person nonetheless. That is important. And of course, people who get up earlier in the morning, they're more proactive and more creative. So morning people are agreeable, optimistic, stable, conscientious, and satisfied with life. So the nice morning sun actually does have benefits. But then, of course, evening people are also very good because they tend to be more creative, intelligent, humorous, extroverted, but also pessimistic, neurotic, and depressed. So you can choose whether you want to be a morning person or an evening person, but getting up early in the morning and having healthy morning habits and a healthy morning routine actually helps with a positive outlook on life. So the next healthy habit, to make you feel even worse, because you can tick off everything on my list: plant-based diet, check; exercise, check; morning person, check. I'm doing all of this. So what else are you surely not doing? Cold showers. There we go. Cold showers improve the blood circulation, and of course they help against depression and anxiety and support the immune system. And the good thing is, if you don't like exercising that vigorously, a cold shower will do the trick, because a cold shower produces stress. Of course it produces stress. We know that. So if you're under a cold shower, actually you again produce or burn out all the stress hormones that have accumulated in your body, and it just flushes them away. So cold showers are important. But the good thing is they make you feel good, they make you feel happy, they increase the happy hormones, the endorphins, and they ease the symptoms of depression and anxiety and decrease the stress hormone levels. So of course, taking a cold shower, don't just take a nice warm shower and then just turn the tap to cold, because that can give some people a heart attack. So very, very careful there. You have to get used to it, okay? So you ease in a little bit, you try with your little toe, then you try with the other little toe, and you get used to it, okay? This is very important. Cold showers are a good habit, but as all medication, taken with care. So now that I've made you feel really bad, because, I'm sure there are some of the things that need improving in our health life. Well, maybe not. Let's talk about mental resilience. Of course, we're highly motivated now to turn a life around and eat healthy and exercise and take cold showers at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's move on to mental health. Mental health is, of course, very popular, and that is good. Because, again, yesterday there was a question: how can we remove the stigma of talking about mental health? Because, of course, talking about depression, just admitting that we're not well is a big deal. So admitting your own vulnerability, that takes courage, and especially when we're in a mental health crisis, that is very difficult to do. So it is good that mental health right now is a hot topic and that we talk about it. So again, let's remind ourselves, what is resilience and what is resilience not? So again, resilience and mental health doesn't mean that if we have good mental health, we will never feel sad, because that is not healthy either. And of course, resilience and good mental health doesn't mean that we know we can get over everything, okay? So it's not a personality trait, but it is actually something that we can learn and practice. So mental resilience is, of course, linked to mental health. Now, how can we improve mental health? And there are plenty of checklists that we can go through. Meditation is one, meditating on God's word is one, prayer, spending time in nature, all of this. Now, I'm going to talk only about two, which are basically the basis for any good mental health practice. So we're going to talk about self-awareness and mindfulness. So yesterday, the question about mindfulness, so today I'm going to go more into that. So what is self-awareness, first of all? Self-awareness is important because it helps us to understand who we are. We need to be aware of our strengths, of our weaknesses, of our belief system, Our motivation, what makes us get up at 5 a.m. in the morning and take a cold shower, and our emotions. So self-awareness is an exercise that we should be doing on a regular basis to create our own value statement, to remember what we're good at, to remember what we're not so good at, things that need improving, things that need fostering. So it is good to be aware of who we actually are, because that helps us to be grounded in reality. Self-awareness is also important to make kind of an inventory in our life. Am I happy? Am I in a position where I'm good? So get rich or die trying. If we would say, for example, with the current value statement, we need to be as rich as possible, and only then we can be happy. Well, is that so? Maybe if we're not so rich, but we actually have a good job, a healthy family, good relationship with God, maybe we're actually exactly where we're supposed to be. So it's always good to have some kind of a value statement and a self-awareness statement to make an inventory where we are and whether we're actually functioning well. So self-awareness is a perception of our reality, and it helps us to respond to that reality. Now, when we're talking about our emotions, what are our main emotions? Of course, emotions are things like joy, sadness, anger, and of course pain, grief, but also happiness, satisfaction. So we need to be aware of our emotions as well and how we normally react to anything at all that life throws at us. Now, a very good book here that I can only recommend, and a very important quote in The Fault in Our Stars. It says, that's the thing about pain. It demands to be felt. So, of course, yes, when we talk about emotions, we have to talk about pain. Pain can't be avoided, and we don't get to choose whether or not we get hurt. We will get hurt eventually, and the best way to handle it is to recognize what it is and to tackle it head on. Sometimes we get hurt and we can't sleep all night because we're hurt. Well, what do we do then? We have to feel it, because our brain is integrating this feeling and is actually helping us to work through it. So emotions demand to be felt, and emotions need to be expressed as well. There is a book in the Bible that is very important in helping us express emotions, and that's, of course, the book of Psalms, because nobody expresses their emotions more beautifully than the psalmist. And yes, we have all the beautiful psalms when he's raving about the beautiful nature, and when he's so happy that God has delivered him from peril. But also we find psalms that are not so often read, like Psalm 88, for example, where the psalmist expresses his pain when he says, I have borne your terrors and I am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me and your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood, and they have completely engulfed me. You have taken from me friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. And he says it again later on, darkness is my closest friend. Think about it, that we can have the courage to express this kind of emotion, not just to each other, but to God as well. It is not a sin to feel hurt. It is not a sin to feel sad or grief. I know as Christians we're supposed to feel joy, but we are human and we are created that way, and God has given us the opportunity to express our pain as well. Now, what does it mean to be aware of our emotions? Of course, being human means we will get hurt. Pain can't be avoided, but the problem is if we try to avoid pain at all costs, we will only increase our anguish in the long run. And in order to cope with our emotions, we must feel them. So of course we all struggle, and we are confronted with grief, loss, and sadness, and anxiety, and fear, or even depression. And that is a threat usually to us, because we think it's all bad and they're negative emotions. But all emotions are neutral. We just need to be able to express them and to see them for what they are, as our reaction to the reality that we are experiencing. I want to introduce you a very good poem by a 13th century Persian poet called Rumi. And he wrote a poem called The Guest House. And that illustrates exactly what self-awareness and mindfulness is all about. So he writes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor." Now we have to keep clicking, of course. Welcome and entertain them all, those emotional visitors. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house and empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably, and he may be clearing you out for some new delight. So let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness, again, according to the dictionary, is a state of active and open attention to the present. When we're mindful, we observe our thoughts and our feelings from a distance, and we don't have to judge whether they're good or bad. So we just realize, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. We take a step back and watch ourselves. And that is important, especially when we're going through a turmoil of emotions, especially when we're going through a certain difficult situation. I personally have a bit of a problem with irascibility sometimes. So in that moment, it is difficult to take a step back, but I'm trying to force myself to say, okay, deep breath, what are you doing? And then usually things click back to where they go, where they belong. Now, mindfulness is an important exercise that helps us to stay focused in the moment. And we can practice mindfulness. No, I'm not talking about meditation, but I'm talking about a simple concept called RAIN. So RAIN means recognize what is happening. And of course, allow life to be as it is. Not try to push away discomfort or negativity, but to just allow yourself to be as you are. And then, of course, investigate with kindness. Yes, we have to be kind to ourselves. So when I'm in the moment of getting my choleric fit because things are not working out, that is not negative. That is just who I am. Investigating with kindness what is actually going on, the underlying stress, the insecurity, the chronic stress that might all trigger this is important. And I need to understand and be kind to myself what is happening. And then, of course, the last one, that's the difficult one, non-attachment. Of course, it is difficult not to be attached because this is your body, this is your brain, your emotions are part of it. But again, if we think about the guest house, emotions come and go. And if we're able to see what's happening from a bit of a distance and to observe, then we can actually process them in a better way. So you might think about how you're experiencing your feelings in your body and perhaps ask what your feelings want from you. Because, of course, feelings have a function. Feelings are supposed to help us perform a certain action. So we know stress and fear are supposed to help us run away or fight, the fight or flight response. Feelings of love and kindness are supposed to help us grow our family and grow closer together. So feelings are important. So what do our feelings in that very moment want from us? What do our feelings want us to do? So we need to rest in the natural awareness that our thoughts have a function, but they don't define us and define our identity. So while we're talking about mindfulness and self-awareness, let's do a little bit of an awareness check. And apart from the value statement and the strength statement, which we can all do at home, let's do one right now. And also for the viewers on the screen at home, this might be a good way to get in the moment. So let's blink a little bit. especially when we're looking at the screen for a very long time, we forget to blink and our eyes become irritated and dry. So ask yourself, is my vision blurry? Do I have a frown on my face, or am I just relaxed, and can I look at the screen, or can I look in the eye of my friend I'm talking to without irritation? So it is important to blink and to be aware of our eye region here. And at the same time, let's scoot a little bit down and look at the neck. Does my neck feel painful? Am I probably very tense at the moment? Especially those who work with a laptop, they know the laptop is too low to actually be looking at. So usually I have very chronic back pain when I'm working with my laptop, just because I'm looking down all the time. So this awareness check, to check your neck and to move it a little bit, is very important. And yes, that ringing in your ears you sometimes hear when you move your neck is actually from your spine in the neck that is irritated. And then, of course, breathing. We did a very good breathing exercise yesterday. Is my breathing shallow? Have I held my breath while I was typing? Because that happens all the time, right? I remember my piano teacher would always panic while I was playing a difficult piece of piano, because I would stop breathing because I was so focused. And she would say, you have to breathe while you're playing. So it happens, right? And of course, we have to check our posture. How am I sitting? Am I standing up straight? Am I sitting straight? Am I feeling discomfort or pain? Maybe my legs or my toes are numb. Okay, so especially when we're sitting in this setting, in chairs, looking at the same direction all the time, it's always good to have a little bit of a check. And yes, children are very good at awareness checking, because children don't sit still, and they're doing that for a very simple reason. They care for themselves, they practice self-care. And that takes me to the next one, which is very important, self-care. I did joke a little bit about our checklist when we talk about mental health and physical health. We need to check things off our list. We need to do things for our mental health. But really what is important is self-care. We read the book of Ecclesiastes yesterday, when Solomon tells people to always be clothed in white, to put oil on our head. That is actually self-care. That is actually helping us to be in the moment, caring for our bodies, caring for our soul, for our spirit. And 15 minutes a day of self-care actually help us avoid chronic stress. So what are 15 minutes of self-care? 15 minutes of jogging, or 15 minutes of meditation, or 15 minutes of this? No. 15 minutes doing nothing. 15 minutes of having a cup of tea, not having to talk to anybody. 15 minutes just for you. And that is the important bit. Those 15 minutes make the difference between a healthy mind and an unhealthy mind. So make sure you get those 15 minutes to yourself in which you do exactly what you want to do. And yes, I call it shoulding. Stop shoulding. I have to admit, I took counseling some time ago, and I told my counselor, I told her, I know what I should do. I should go outside more. I should exercise, and I should do all these things for my mental health, but I just can't. And this is what the counselor actually said. She said, stop shooting. Why do you make yourself feel bad? I did talk about all of the checklists, but life is not a checklist. When we care for ourselves, we can't just give us another product. We're not an assembly line. We're not a factory. We can't give us another production goal or a KPI for our body. No, this is us. We're human. So those 15 minutes are just for ourselves, without checklists. And that takes me to the last pillar of spiritual resilience. Spiritual resilience, probably the most important of all. And yes, we do have our founder who actually mentioned that. Ellen White wrote in Counsels on Health, the influence of the Spirit of God is the very best medicine for disease. Heaven is all health, and the more deeply heavenly influences are realized, the more sure will be the recovery of the believing invalid. Spiritual health helps us to become whole, probably not healthy, but whole. And there's a difference between healing and making whole. True religion and the laws of health go hand in hand. And of course, there is more medical evidence. Spirituality affects resilience. It is important to foster our spiritual side. We do have a creator, and we do need to get in touch with our creator. We need to have that relationship with our creator, because only then we can truly become whole and accept our humanness. And humanness, again, is not perfect. We cannot make ourselves the healthiest, fittest persons in the world. Some are, but most aren't. And this is what we need to accept. We need to accept our mortality, our vulnerability, our createdness. So what does the Bible say about this? And yes, we find that in the book of Job. Job says he fell to the ground in worship, and he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." And all this, God did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. So Job, who suffered loss and illness, practiced spiritual resilience. We read how he reacted to the bad news and the worse news and the even worse news that were brought to him. But he steadfastly held on to his hope and to his Creator. And he, of course, exclaims, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth." Job had spiritual resilience because he kept that connection through thick and thin with God. And of course, the ultimate optimist, the Apostle Paul, tells us the ultimate recipe to develop emotional and spiritual resilience in Romans chapter 12. Of course, he tells us to be joyful in hope. What does that mean? To trust in God and his power to help you endure and persist and to live fully into the goodness that awaits. We know there is hope. We know things will turn out well for those who love him, who are in God's love. So of course, we can be joyful in that hope. But he goes on to say to be patient in affliction. Be patient in affliction does mean nothing else but to acknowledge our fears and anxieties, to express them to God, to offer them up in prayer. We can even write them down in a journal and even share them with a friend, because what are friends for? To be patient in affliction means just to be able to endure it with God and to work on our relationship. So he goes on to say to be faithful in prayer. To be faithful in prayer means, of course, to pray regularly, to continue cultivating that spiritual relationship with God. That also means to cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is important to develop healthy mindset and an optimistic outlook on life. Counting our blessings is important. So in the face even of a crisis, we can still make note of all the things that we're grateful for. And of course, we're not an island. We need to share with the Lord's people who are in need, to practice kindness. 5 minutes of the morning news are enough to send everybody in a downward spiral, of course, but bad news and our fears show an imbalanced worldview. But instead, we have the power to create good news, to transform lives around ourselves, not to be overwhelmed by what is happening, but actually overcome evil with good, as we read yesterday. He goes on to say to practice hospitality. And yes, that is important. We need our social connections. We need our relationships. Friends and family are important for our mental health. We need to surround ourselves with positivity, with people that build us up and help us get through things. We're surrounded by care and support. And of course, it's not just that we need the care, but also we need to care. So we can send a message or do something nice for the people that we care about. And yes, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. And that means smile. Choose your battles. Sometimes it is just easier to let people be wrong. So you just have to be able to let go. And of course, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. Listen compassionately to others and practice empathy, especially when we're talking about our relationship with our family, with our friends. Empathy is the basis for a good relationship, and listening is the basis for anything. Really understanding how the other person ticks really helps us to build relationships, and relationships are again the basis for good mental health. And of course, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And that means to look up, to focus on our awareness on something that's beautiful, to look at this world that God has created in a wonderful way. So when you take a walk outside, don't just think about the 150 minutes of exercise that you have to clock in, but look at your surroundings. Look at the beautiful lavender fields outside. And I remember Albulena, anytime she's here, she goes and she smells all the flowers. And that is so beautiful because children can teach us how to appreciate our surroundings in a very, very special way. So yes, even Jesus tells us to consider the lilies in the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, and yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Even Jesus took in his surroundings with gratefulness. Even Jesus practiced mindfulness, being grounded in reality, seeing this beautiful world as it was created, because that is what gives us hope and cultivates our gratitude and helps us build our relationship with our Creator. So, in conclusion, what can we say? The 3 pillars of resilience: physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. Now, I don't know if you know the game Jenga. So Jenga is this game of 54 wooden blocks, and you put them up one by one, and then you always pull out one somewhere and put it on top. And of course, when everything falls apart, you shout Jenga, yes? Now, that is actually a very good simile to talk about spiritual, physical, and mental health. Because I played Jenga once with Albulena, and it quickly ended up in a contest, who can build the higher tower. And of course, very quickly we found out that you can build a much higher tower with the same amount of blocks if you only use 2 blocks to build that tower. And the tower becomes much, much higher than the tower that is built on 3. And as soon as you pull out 1 block, the high tower that is built very successfully falls apart immediately, while the shorter tower that is built on 3 blocks, all 3 pillars, is more stable and more resilient. So we do need the physical health, the mental health, and the spiritual health to keep us stable in this life. Now, spiritual health and spiritual resilience is nothing else but hope. And what are we hoping for? What is our hope when we look around, when we see all the tragedies that are happening, when we see that we're actually living in the end times, when we know that Jesus is coming soon, because we hear wars and rumors of wars, we hear earthquakes, we hear floods, we hear everything that is happening in the news every day, and it's unfolding right in front of our eyes. We have this hope. We can read the book of Revelation, where it says in Revelation 21, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away. And he who sat on the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. I I make all things new. This is the hope that we have. This is the hope that can bring us through everything. This is the hope for tomorrow. This is the hope that helps us go on and to help us bounce back. Thank you and amen.